Okay, we're going to start generating some images by preparing our layers properly. We already took care of the badge. Now let's look at this background image that has this architectural detail. That one is also in the header. Oh, and by the way, just as a reminder, for the effects, we're going to turn the effects off of the logo because otherwise that image generator is going to constantly keep that picture up to date in the folder with the effects turned on. So we're only going to turn effects on whenever we actually need to generate the final comp, which we've already done. Let's go down here and find the pictures that contribute to the architectural detail, and it's these three layers. So if we turn those off, you can see that all of them are integral to that background image actually looking the way it does on our screen. So what we can do is select all three of these, and then we're going to group them, and then we're going to actually call them banner. Well, let's use all lowercase because this is going to actually be for a picture file name. So we'll call it BG banner, and then we'll do .jpg, and then again we'll do this at 10 quality. And so that's everything that's inside the header that we want pictures of. We'll close that. And if you wanted to like really clearly identify what's a picture, you could label the layer with a gray label so that you know that that actually represents a picture. And that's one strategy that you could come up with, or some other color, whatever color you're not using, you could label it with that color. That's just one idea. Okay, the next set of images we've got are the commercial gallery and residential gallery. So we go into who we are, and what we want to do here is we want to actually just take off this RES, and we also want to take off the typography, because the idea is that those things would actually be generated by CSS and HTML, we decided. So let's go ahead and we can rename residential as residential.jpg, and we'll do it as 10. And you could experiment with this and, change the quality to something lower than 10, and you can compare when you open them up later and look at the file size. But you just need to also be aware that because these two things are constrained together through the clipping mask, it's going to automatically know that residential.jpg is going to grab all components of this. So if we wanted to stick with our plan of labeling images as gray, then we need to select both of these things. All right, and then we also have to deal with the commercial side, and we're going to do this again where we say commercial.jpg, and I'll go ahead and give it 10. So we'll select both of these layers and we will give it a gray color. If we wanted to make this plus symbol a picture, then something that we would need to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a duplicate copy of the type layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the original type layer off that has the plus symbol, and I'm going to take this type layer and I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say convert to shape. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I'm going to say plus symbol.jpg. It's a nice small one. And the reason is that that plus symbol might not work so well if it's not actually a picture. Now that's everything that's a picture inside of who we are. And just so that we can see what's going on, let's take a look in that folder. And look, it's already generating our stuff for us. So if you want to like scroll through this, I mean, how cool is that? Oh, this is our error log. That's normal that it makes that. There's our plus symbol. There's our other picture. So I mean, that's pretty awesome that it does this for us. Okay. So that being said, we can keep on going through here. And let's scroll here, and we're going to deal with all of these picture files for the R team people. So now it's kind of nice because member photos, it's actually separate from member names. The other thing that's really cool is that we decided, originally that we would put the stroke and the drop shadow around all of these for our mockup. But then we discussed in the last demo how that would actually be generated with CSS and HTML, and we don't want to have that. What's cool about this is that I can just turn the effects off on the folder and not have to do it for every single asset that's inside. What I do have to do though is I have to go and I need to name each one of these layers, and so let's do Megan, and we'll do hers a JPEG. We'll give her a value of 10. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy the .jpeg 10, because if that's what I'm going to do for all of them, then that's fine. And, you know, if we go back here and do all of our stuff that we just, you know, we determined earlier with making these gray, we could just actually select all of them at once and make them gray like this, so that we're not doing them two at a time, since we know that all of these are going to be contributing to pictures. So let's rename Daniel, and I'll put that at the end. Rename Michael, Susan, and we'll do Elsa, and finally Otto. Okay, so now we've got our member photos set up, and we're going to leave those off, leave those stroke effects off, so we can double check in our file, and in fact, yes, there are the people's names. That's great, and you see it didn't put the border or drop shadow around, so that's perfect. Okay, and so we're done with the member photos, but we still need to get the entire background image right here. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is select all three of these things. Actually, oh yeah, select all three of these, and I'm going to put them in a group folder, and I'm going to label that bg-r-team.jpg, and so our team is done. Now we'll collapse that, and contact us. The only thing really in contact us that we need is that typewriter, because everything else is basically going to be generated either through HTML and CSS, or this is going to be like a live Google plugin. So let's go, and we're going to collapse the form because we don't need anything in there. Here's that Google, and we don't need the Google Maps screenshot, so that's not a big deal. What we do need, however, is this typewriter, and I'm going to call this I'm going to call it typewriter. I'll just call it typewriter.jpg. Yeah. Okay. And we decided that we're going to do gray. If I forgot to make some of these things gray, please forgive me. I think, in fact, that I did forget in our team. I think I forgot to do that for the background. Yeah, let's do that as gray. And I think I also forgot it in the who we are, I think, for the plus symbol. Yeah, let's do this one as gray as well. And then if I forgot any others, just forgive me. I don't remember which ones they are. And then the last couple of things, we've got the footer logo, and then we've got the navigation button. So let's look in our footer. And here's the logo. And I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to rename it so that it's lowercase. And I'll do that as a JPEG. And the other one is going to be this top button. But I need to rename this button top. And we'll do that as a JPEG as well, just to keep it simple. Let's check our folder again and make sure that we have all the assets that we are expecting to have. So we've got our banner. We have our background image for our team. We have our button. But guess what? I messed this one up because remember I have the word top as part of the folder. Let's go fix that right now. And we're going to go and let's open the folder. And I think what we can go ahead and do safely is we can just remove the word top and just pull it outside. And that should fix it, and we'll double check. And it did. There we go. How convenient is that? It fixed it. So now we've got our commercial. There's Daniel, there's Elsa, there's our badge, logo. Here's a problem though. All right, this is a problem. Actually, it's a problem for the button here too. The logo has a white background, and so does the button, but they're circular, so that's going to be an issue. That's also, well, it would be true of the plus symbol, except that we know the plus symbol's on a white background, so it's no big deal. But the problem is that these two, the button and the logo down here are on a dark background in the footer. So for that, we're going to have to save it as a different file type. But we'll come back to that. Let's just keep on checking. It looks like everything is still good. And that's a problem, however. Typewriter doesn't look right, so there's something that I didn't do there's something wrong with that one. So we need to fix three things. We need to fix the file type that we're saving button and logo as, and we need to do something different with the typewriter. Okay, so let's go back and let's fix the ones that are easier because we know exactly what's wrong with them. So the button, we need a file type that has transparency, and a JPEG has no transparency. So what we could do is we could either use a GIF, which is an index color file. I think I sort of briefly explained that to you before, and that's not what we want because it doesn't have a good kind of transparency, and a PNG 8 is about the same. So what we want to do is if we just do PNG like that, let's take a peek and see what we've got. And you see there's no bounding box outside of that now. What it did is it saved it as a PNG 24, which is exactly what we want. So PNG 24 is the one that has a good alpha transparency for its transparency. So let's go and we'll do that one as PNG. And if you don't have to put PNG 24, in fact, let's try putting PNG 24. Seems like I've had problems with that before. And you see what happens is it's saving it as a PNG 8, which doesn't have good transparency. It's not, well, actually it's saving it as a PNG but with a white background. It doesn't know what to do. It's basically saying, okay, well, save me as a PNG but don't give me transparency. So let's go and fix that. And if we take the 24 part off, it's going to assume that you want a PNG 24. Okay, so those two things we fixed, and we need to look at the typewriter and see what's going on with that. And actually, right off the bat, I see what the problem is. I think I visually misunderstood what was happening here earlier. This is just a screening layer, but it's not actually attached to the one below it. I think that I thought it was by seeing this arrow, but really it's this one that's attached to the one below it. So what I would need to do, let's just be consistent, and I'm going to change this so that I'm getting rid of the JPEG. And what I'll do is I'll put all three of these things inside of a folder. Actually, let me also go ahead and change. To be consistent, we're going to change that. And we're going to put it in a folder. And this one we're going to call typewriter.jpg. Okay, let's go check it out. And it should have fixed it, and it did. Okay, so we're in the money. Now, quickly, I want to go ahead and show you a website. Because there are so many different versions of those little commands that you can stick on the end of the file names in those layers. And there's this website, it's a blog that Adobe puts on, and it specifically addresses additional tags that you can use at the ends of those layer names so that it can produce the right file type. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Photoshop, and I'll show you an example. So if I go into the header, I can choose this background banner, and what's going to happen is I'm going to make a duplicate of this because I don't want to overwrite the original one, and I'm going to change the name from, well, first of all, it has to say 200% in the front, and then we'll say background-banner-retina, and then I can get rid of the JPEG 10 copy, the 10 copy part. And then let's just take a look here. And you see that it made two files. One is the regular and one is the retina. And you can't tell the difference here. Check it out, if I put them in a web browser, this is the retina display. That's huge and it has great interpolation. And then this one is the normal one.